Hello and welcome to the channel. Thank you for joining me. I do hope that you are well, and thank you of course for your continued support. Now, we all know that the DWP process can be very distressing and very stressful, and we also know that there have been cases where people have lost their lives, shall we say, because of it. Now, I can't say the actual word because YouTube doesn't like it, and will probably give me a slap on the wrist if I talk about it. So instead of saying that word, I'm going to say other words, but I think you all know what I mean. Okay, so in the cases where these things have happened, sometimes the coroner can request a review from the DWP if they think that is the reason why it happened, and that can also be requested by members of staff within the DWP, and also if there's an allegation made by the family. However, the numbers of those cases that are actually investigated is not as many as you might think. So I'm going to show you an article which talks about it. Let's take a look. Okay, so the DWP finally admits to ordering more than 30 secret reviews into universal credit harm and deaths last year. They've admitted to carrying out more than 30 reviews last year into cases of serious harm or death involving someone receiving universal credit. These internal process reviews, or secret reviews as they're called, are only carried out if there has been an allegation that DWP's actions may have negatively contributed to the customer's circumstances, or if it's asked to contribute to a safeguarding or domestic homicide review or an inquest. Figures will add to concerns about the working age benefit system 2 months after the starting of the rollout of universal credit to remaining hundreds of thousands of disabled people still receiving ESA. The PSA union has described it as a dangerously flawed system in which most vulnerable people continue to slip through the cracks, and that is absolutely right. DWP previously claimed it was just a mistake, that figures on how many IPRs into these cases were carried out were omitted from the department's annual report for 2023-2024. The report, published just after the election, introduced figures on page 80 stating, "The chart below shows the primary service lines relating to the customer's cases accepted to the IPR across 23-24, but there was no chart and no figures provided." Now, more than 3 months later, the DWP has finally published the missing figures, and the reason they've done that is because they were asked to provide the figures, and also they were also asked to provide evidence that they had relaxed the criteria for these IPRs in order to basically do less of them, and the fact that that had happened was not found. The DWP said they couldn't find any documentation to say that they had relaxed the figures into what criteria there was for the IPR, even though they have. And it was a bit of a contentious issue, the fact that they had to provide this information but somehow couldn't find it. They showed that 31 IPRs were carried out in 23-24 into these cases, into other deaths, and also into attempted cases, and of serious harm involving claimants of universal credit. They also showed 27 were carried out into cases involving personal independence payment and claimants, and 15 into disabled people who were receiving employment support allowance. In 23-24, the DWP staff themselves referred 75 cases for a possible review, but only 53 met the criteria and were accepted. Despite repeated concerns being raised about safeguarding and the safety of the administration of universal credit, none of the main political parties mentioned it in their election manifestos. How weird is that? But of course they're not going to, because they want to reduce the number of people on benefits, whether it's by, good means or not. They don't want as many people claiming benefits. They want to get people back into work, and what they don't want is anything which would show a negative light on that. So of course they're not going to mention it in their manifestos. In July, DNS described how repeated failures by DWP led to the death of a disabled woman, Nezarine Anderson, after her case was randomly selected for a performance measurement review of her credit claim. Last November, another coroner wrote to the department after the death of Kevin Gale to warn DWP that it needed to act to prevent flaws in the universal credit system leading to further deaths, after Gale took his life after becoming overwhelmed by the application process. Last month, it was reported that a disabled woman was left traumatised by the daily demands of universal credit and took her life just 7 days after being told that she would need to attend a face-to-face meeting with a work coach. Her inquest is yet to take place. It's thanks to a secret DWP decision, the criteria for when to carry out IPR was weakened in April 2021, which is what I was talking about just now. Previously, whenever DWP became aware that a claimant had died by this means, it would order an IPR event, even if there were no allegations that its actions had contributed to the event. But since 21, after weakening the rules, DWP now only carries out an IPR following the claimant's situation if there is already an allegation that DWP actions may have negatively contributed to the customer's circumstances, and the claimant has suffered serious harm, including by this, or where there is reason to believe there had been an attempt. The IPRs are also carried out if DWP is asked to participate in a safeguarding adult review, a significant case review, or domestic homicide review, or is named an inquest party at the inquest. And this is one of the problems, because obviously they don't want to be associated with these cases, and so they're going to relax the criteria so they don't have to be, mentioned in these cases. I think coroners in these situations, if they think there is a link, I think coroners have got to speak to the DWP. They've got to request one of these through the DWP if they feel that this is one of the reasons. I mean, you can see here, some people have done this simply because the application process is overwhelming. I mean, that's just completely ridiculous. Why, that people feel that way over an application process, and that's because the application process is so stressful, and the actual assessments are so stressful. So let me know your thoughts down here in the comment section. It's a real tragedy that these people have got to this situation because of a government body. And really, the government have got to look at it, but of course they're not going to. Let me know down in the comment section what you think, and I'll see you next time.